What is the first game that comes to mind when you think of Soulless? Would you describe that game as uninspired, safe, and lacking in identity? Possibly even boring? Seems like the biggest games nowadays come from AAA publishers wanting to sell you a ready-made product that's clearly missing the human behind it, or more accurately, the gamer. Now, I'm not going to sit here and preach to you that corporations shouldn't be making video games, because I don't believe that. The Sims franchise was once great, Sims 4 gave me thousands of hours of game time, Enjoy even has some amazing qualities, which is why I haven't completely given up, and instead I'm quietly paying attention to see what their priorities are. The biggest reason I'm not anti-corporation is the games I would give anything to experience for the first time again are backed by some of the largest video game publishers out there. So the big guys in making a good game is not impossible. Still, there is a quality that's so rare, so specific, and truly authentic when there is a gamer leading development. When we are presented with an indie title that is overflowing with human expression and prioritizes the fun of the game, it reminds us of the good that games can bring. It reminds us why it would be a crime not to spotlight these gems while we have them. Early access may be several months out, but anticipation is growing among the devs, players, and content creators who've been watching this project evolve for years. What fuels that anticipation is the promise of an open world, extensive customization of your para, their home, and modding support available on day one. The excitement will continue with future updates promising pets, seasons, and story progression. Someone who has boarded the hype train recently may be familiar with the promising future that awaits this cozy game. But how many are aware of the origin story that snowballed into what we know today? If you're a fan who doesn't know the humble beginnings of this indie life sim, no worries. Here's a quick recap of where it all began. Who we now know as the founder of Paralives, Alex Massey, took a high school programming class that immediately spoke to them. They had found their destined path, the kind of career that makes you realize what you were meant to do. With the butterfly effect now in motion, they went on to make smaller video games during university to then graduate and gain 5 years of experience in the gaming industry. Developing a life sim was the obvious choice for their first project, as the genre had already gifted them with countless hours of creative freedom through life simulation and sandbox adjacent games. So with enough experience and savings, Alex quit their job in 2019 to start developing their dream into a passion project. Later that year, Alex was joined by leading game artist Leah Sorribes. Together, they would grow into a team of 15 over the next 6 years, eventually creating the genre-defining life sim set to release in May of 2026. You may ask, how can I confidently say Paralives is a genre-defining game when at the time of posting this video, we are almost half a year away from actually experiencing the game ourselves? Well, the reason I am so confident is because it has already made such an impact on the life sim space. I'll dive into how exactly Paralives was able to pull that off for the better part of a decade, but I'll start with the most wholesome part of their story. What has truly defined this game's impact is the shared deep passion for life sims and the consistent set of values the developers have. During development, the team funded their project with generous donations from patrons. In return, they shared exclusive updates on the game's progress and welcomed suggestions from the community. As their funding goals were hit one by one, essential roles were filled to keep development moving forward. On most occasions, when a new team member was hired, they were given the chance to introduce themselves in a Patreon post and explain why they were joining the Paralives team. I've always been, like everyone on the team, a huge fan of simulation games. I started very young playing the first Sims games, and since then, I bought every single expansion. It was a really big part of me growing up and what started my interest for other games. I can't wait to see how Paralives will grow and evolve, and I'm sure you do played when I was younger were surprisingly simulation games, like The Sims 2, Animal Crossing, and some old Flash web simulation games. I even made my own city building game in junior high on grid paper where my friends could choose cells to color to have an effect on the imaginary simulation games with The Sims 1, then 2, then 3, and the wonderful games Roller Coaster Tycoon and Zoo Tycoon. I spent weeks playing these games with my best friend, glued together in front of the same computer during our school holidays. Now that I'm working on creating my dream game, what would I like to bring to it? First of all, I would say consistency in the universe, townies with a story, real personalities, rich lore, and secrets to discover. I would like Paralives to find its own place in the world of simulation games. Beyond a mere game, I think that Paralives is an incredible medium to talk about what we care about and create stories we want. Each new member had a key quality that meant something. Be the player they're making this game for. From a young age, they cultivated a love for games that demanded creative thinking, challenged their playstyles, and allowed for endless ways to build their own worlds. From a fan's perspective, technical experience wasn't enough. You needed to be committed to developing a uniquely immersive sandbox that changed the way players think of life sims. This is where someone would challenge, well, isn't that the norm? An expected job requirement is to have the experience and special interest in the field you're applying for. And I would respond with, yes, that is the expectation. You would hope developers and publishers have a special interest in the games they're selling, yet why is it becoming increasingly difficult to see that same passion from larger studios? I know I can't be the only one who sees the creative decisions being made and thinking these publishers and certain CEOs have never touched a game.
The amount of eggs I have in my internet-enabled fridge might mean my Sims are better off in my game. So this world where games and life start to blend, I think really comes into play in the not-too-distant future, and almost certainly by 2021.
I couldn't tell you why they thought this was supposed to be a huge selling point to promote The Sims future, but I promise you it won't be a game I'll be playing. Shade aside, there is a certain magic AAA games fail to master in modern gaming. To genuinely appreciate and understand the games they're making is a powerful advantage that large corporations rarely replicate. When the Paralives delay was announced, I did have a bit of a mini crash out. I wasn't angry at the team or frustrated with previous announcements of the release date. It was ultimately a concern for the future of a project so many of us have watched grow for years. It's strange how quickly the fear sets in. The idea that a game built with this much transparency, passion, and community support could never see the light of day was a scary reality I didn't want to experience. But after stepping back, sleeping on it, and looking at the situation with a clear head, my opinion on the whole situation changed. What started out as fear eventually turned into a stronger commitment to this project. And here's exactly what made the difference. When setbacks happen, because they will, I find the following actions are very telling of priorities. For one, it's very telling that the feedback from the team's latest playtest was the reason they decided to delay. Even with the risk of early access already being promised, a hard decision was made to value the first impressions of the game over launching in what I would call incredible timing. Reactions to the first state of the game will follow them throughout the entire legacy of Paralives. And the choice that speaks volumes is the decision to show the game at its current state so all eyes can see what would have been an early grave come December 8th. Watching how humane and honest they were in navigating this quite embarrassing event made me realize something I've been feeling for a while now. Not just about this game, but about the direction games as a whole are moving. Indie games like Paralives matter because they put players first, take creative risks, and push the life sim genre forward in ways AAA studios no longer do. Paralives Studio has put the community's first impression as a priority. From the beginning, they have set the standard player enjoyment comes first. This has been proven by maintaining community involvement. They've taken suggestions through Patreon polls, comments addressing concerns, and found new ideas through dev chats. The team isn't afraid to take risks. changing the status quo of how a life sim should work so systems function uniquely, rewarding the players with a fresh experience. And of course, taking the biggest risk of delaying after doubling down on the original release date. They knew it was necessary to disappoint fans now so they can enjoy the initial release later. So when we as the players are presented with consumer-friendly practices, it is up to us to support the developers who uphold those values. The community holds the power to help this game succeed, and that success will send a message to the entire industry of what players value. A game made for everyone usually ends up being a game made for no one. Developing fan-requested systems, leaning into a niche art direction, and refusing the predatory monetization model the genre has normalized are all risks big companies won't take. Shareholders don't care about innovation. They care about what's profitable. And that mindset is exactly what keeps this genre from evolving. And how exactly has Paralives deviated from the traditional formula? By innovating the gameplay loop of what you would expect from a life simulator. Take Together cards, for example. Instead of the endless wheel individual social interactions can become, Paralives turns socializing into an interactive role-playing experience. Skills branch off from general activities to niche hobbies. Personalities start out limited, making their impact on your character's temperament and autonomous behavior more noticeable, and this also allows your para to grow and evolve as you play. The art direction is a bold move all on its own. Parafolk are designed with bold, hand-drawn outlines that make them leap off the screen, standing out against their environment. The world still carries that same stylized, handcrafted aesthetic, yet with a soft, painterly vibe. Very divisive artistic choices were made, but by leaning into a distinct, charming style, it gives the game an instantly recognizable identity. That kind of visual risk builds a brand that sticks. And with the risk in the room, we know how Paralives pledging to only put out free updates and expansions breaks down so many unspoken rules on how to make money. This breaks the norm so much, even the people who would directly benefit from it feel it's too risky. We don't need to make the dead argument that games have been successful using this monetization model since before most Sims 4 players were even born. We won't go there because it seems they don't get it. But here's a point you probably shouldn't miss. If you believe a game has to milk its players to turn a profit, then you were lied to. Will they make billions from selling a game as a one-time purchase? Probably not. But here's the crazy thing, no one should. Why do we act like success only counts if a game rakes in the kind of absurd billions of dollars in revenue that only AAA publishers chase? What kind of late-stage capitalistic hell are we living in? Now, is it possible to make a reasonable profit by treating players with respect and giving them a full experience without draining their wallets? Absolutely. We've already seen plenty of examples, and I'm hoping Paralives joins them. If you want the industry to improve, support the developers who already have. Start the change now and watch the rest of the industry catch up. A game made for everyone is a game made for no one, but a game made for its audience is a game that leaves a legacy. You know what kind of comment really gets under my skin? Most of the time, it's not the poster's fault. They're usually coming from a good place, but still, I start itching when I hear closed-minded takes like this, even when I know the truth behind them. It's the saying that there hasn't been many Sims-like games because developers are too afraid to make something that complicated. Paralives themselves address this. A life sim is really 3 games in one. Character creation, build mode, and live mode all have to meet high standards or risk being torn apart by the life sim community. Sometimes rightfully so. I can't see a reason to have a 3D life sim with a limited character creator. What frustrates me is that developing a life sim is complicated. It's a huge time investment, the budgets can be massive, the technical challenges are intense, but hard doesn't mean impossible. I'm not the type to settle for less just because something is difficult. If indie teams are brave enough to take on the challenge and decide to grow their game over time, I can't see why more won't do the same. The player base is there, so is the demand. Then why is there such a lack of variety in this niche section of life sims? What Paralives is attempting is insanity if you really think about it. Developing a life sim is already a massive challenge, but choosing the slow path of early access while actively inviting community feedback is very brave. Some might even call it foolish. What type of confidence does a team of 15 have to think this could become something? Well, it's the same type of confidence that drove Will Wright to keep pushing a game that felt like playing Barbies, even when everyone assumed boys wouldn't be interested. How do you expect evolution when you don't give space for foolish attempts? So when the little guy does it, give them the space and support to grow and hold them accountable when they mess up. I want to be clear, this is not an indie game good, AAA bad video. This is the type of short-minded thinking that makes no sense to me. Paralives is not this holy grail that is here to save life sims. There are humans behind this project, just like there are humans behind corporations who push for predatory practices. And sometimes those humans make choices that also don't make sense to me. Like, how were we 4 weeks out from a release date to then delaying early access, which the community, rightfully so, felt the rug was pulled? My only guess is when you're behind the curtain, it's hard to tell the difference between the meticulous and time-consuming work that goes into development and what a player will actually experience. Here's hoping they learn from that and do better. What I hope you take from this is that there is a balance between praise and critique, and we should use that balance when a gaming studio shows clear respect for their craft and consumers. This doesn't work by ignoring their faults and loudly singing their praises. This also doesn't work by calling the whole thing a scam after one delay. Claiming the game will now never exist is crazy mind work. Given how passionate and honestly crazy this community is, we have the power to support studios that do it right. And obviously, I think Paralives is one of those studios. They deserve our patience, support, and criticism. I just hope the team continues to match it. Indie games like Paralives matter because they prioritize players, embrace bold creativity, and push the life sim genre into uncharted territory.